It's January 4th, 1987. It was around a calm and peaceful Sunday at Bayview Yard just east of Baltimore. Conrail ENS 121 is sitting in the yard in preparation for his trip towards a Nora yard in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania later today. Today's ENS 121 is just a light power move with a trio of B-36-7s, all built in the early 1980s. Conrail 5044, 5052, and 5045. Conrail's ENS 121's engineer that day was 32-year-old Ricky Gates. He was hired by Penn Central in 1973 as a brakeman, and in 1974 he was promoted as a fireman. In 1975, he entered the Penn Central Engineer Training Program before he was promoted as engineer in 1976. In 1974, while he was a fireman, he was suspended for 30 days after passing a stop signal. And if that wasn't enough, in 1984, while he was the engineer, he was suspended for a week after speaking to a dispatcher in a quote-unquote belligerent and threatening manner. Wow. But anyways, the man sat next to Ricky Gates was 33-year-old brakeman Edward Conrail. He too was hired by Penn Central in 1973 as a freight brakeman. He was eventually promoted as freight conductor by April of 1976. In 1982, he failed to report to an assignment, and by 1986, he was subject to 9 supervisory checks. Meanwhile, down south, at Washington, D.C., Amtrak 94, the Colonial, departed Washington Union Station at 12:30 p.m. on its way towards Boston South Station. 665 passengers and crew were on board the train. Leading Amtrak 94 were 2 new Amtrak AN7s, number 903 and 900, which was a prototype. At the controls of the northbound Colonial was 35-year-old Jerome Evans. Like Gates and Conrail, he too was employed by Penn Central and started his career as a fireman in 1972. In 1973, he entered the engineer training program before promoted as engineer in 1974. Since then, he became engineer for both Penn Central and Conrail before switching to Amtrak in 1983. We'll get back to more details about him in a little bit. The Conrail train soon left Bayview Yard at 1:16 p.m. Around the same time, 94 left Baltimore Union Station. Further down the line at the gunpowder interlocking, Track 2 was lined up for Amtrak 94 to pass through. So Conrail ENS 121 will have to stop on Track 1 to let 94 pass before Conrail ENS 121 can continue on track 2. Unfortunately, this plan to let two trains pass safely one another is about to go terribly wrong. The Conrail was traveling at 60 miles an hour, approaching a gunpowder interlocking. An approach signal soon came into view, meaning that Conrail ENS 121 was supposed to slow down and prepare to stop at the next signal up ahead. However, the train continues to fly down at 60 miles an hour without stopping or slowing down. Cromwell was supposed to call out the signals if Gates missed them, but he didn't. The reason? Gates and Cromwell were smoking marijuana, and they were passing a joint back and forth in the cab of 5044, a big no-no. Soon after, a stop signal soon came into view. We have now reached the setup for disaster. And after seeing a stop signal, Gates immediately applied the emergency brakes, but because of their speed, the train switched over from track 1 to track 2, the very same track 94 was thundering down on. Meanwhile, 94 was flying through the northeast corridor at 125 miles an hour. 125 miles an hour, without knowing that danger was up ahead. The lives of the occupants on both the Amtrak and the Conrail were about to be on the line in just seconds. And shortly after Evans spots the Conrails on the same track, he immediately slams on the emergency brakes, but it was too little, too late. The two trains collided at around 1:30 p.m. Conrail 5045 exploded when Amtrak 903 slammed head-on into it at 120 miles an hour, thus causing the locomotive to burn down to its frame, like a bomb exploding. The middle unit, 5052, suffered severe cab and nose damage, like a fist through a glass mirror, and 5044 just suffered little damage. The front cab of 903 was completely destroyed before it was tossed into the west side of the rails, with Evans still inside, being killed instantly. 900 meanwhile was smashed by the end fleets that came tumbling down behind it. It was total chaos inside the end fleets. Chairs were ripped away from the cars, and luggage and bags were falling all over. Within minutes, rescuers finally arrived. They were shocked what they have seen right in front of them. Despite their efforts to rescue all who was trapped inside the Amtrak, the tools such as the jaws of life used in automobile accidents were useless against the M fleets. They used ladders, ropes, and other equipment at the crash site to help out the trapped victims. They worked throughout the night until midnight the next day, until the last victim was finally free. In the end, over 500 people walked away uninjured, including Ricky Gates. 170 sustained injuries, including Edward Cromwell, and 16 people had died. The NTSB immediately launches an investigation after the crash. Gates and Cuomo denied the fact that they were smoking marijuana. However, drug tests showed positive, indicating that they were both indeed smoking marijuana. Because of this, they did not do the pre-departure tests in the Leandra 5484. Inside the cab of 5484, the Pennsylvania Railroad-style cab signal had the approach bulb missing. To make matters worse, an alert whistle that should have warned the crew that they passed a stop signal was silenced with duct tape. And it was Gates' responsibility to not only look for the whistle, but to report any issues as well, but failed to do so. It was also revealed that the Conrail and the Amtrak were both speeding towards the gunpowder interlocking. The speed limit for freight trains was 50 miles an hour. Conrail ENS 121 was going at 60 miles an hour. The speed limit for Amtrak trains was 110 miles an hour. At the time of the accident, there was a speed restriction for Amtrak trains at 105 miles an hour, but the Amtrak was going at 125 miles an hour. So why was the Amtrak speeding? Well, there was something interesting to note about Evans. According to the NTSB report, he violated a speed restriction while he was working for Conrail in 1978, and violated a speed restriction again when he was working for Amtrak in 1984. A big reminder why you should always watch your speed. After the investigation was concluded, Conrail immediately suspended both Gates and Cromwell indefinitely, but both resigned before facing termination. Gates was charged with manslaughter by locomotive and was sentenced to 5 years in prison and 1 year probation. It's been said he was given an additional 3 years in prison for lying to the federal investigators, the National Transportation Safety Board. After he was released from prison in 1992, he became a counselor at a treatment center before becoming an operating engineer to run heavy equipment. He is still alive as of 2018. He feels quite disappointed by his actions at Chase in 1987. Unfortunately, I didn't find any details about what happened to Cromwell after he resigned from Conrail. But any details, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Amtrak 903 and 900 were both deemed damaged beyond repair and they were both scrapped. 903 and 900 became the first AEM7s to be scrapped after the wreck. As for the Conrail GEs, 5045 was completely obliterated and what's left of it was scrapped. The locomotive was never rebuilt. 5052 and 5044 were both repaired and returned to service. Both were sold to CSX before being sold again to Brazil, and they are both likely still in service today. It's been 36 years since that collision occurred. The Chase Maryland collision remained the worst wreck of Amtrak's history until 1993, but that's another story.